Today we have two biotechs going for drug approvals. This is your market checkup. So Max, let's start with the big news first, the one that's involved with the government shutdown. And I know it's tough for parents who are visiting Washington, D.C. with the family. They don't know what to do with the kids. They can't take them to the Smithsonian. They try to go to the zoo. That's closed too. But I'll tell them where they can go, and that's an FDA advisory committee meeting.
Yeah, hey David, between the FDA and a museum, my vote goes to the FDA any day of the week. But you're probably referring to October 16th. This is the advisory committee meeting for Amarin's Vascepa. This is an omega-3 fatty acid drug that lowers triglyceride levels. And this is really the event that basically every biotech investor has been watching in 2013. This is to see whether or not this advisory committee will recommend approval for the anchor indication. It's an expanded approval for Vascepa.
And it's a much, much larger patient population. We're talking about 8 times the size of what it's currently indicated for. It's about 36 million patients with mixed triglyceride levels. This would also put it into clear waters, essentially. Right now it's competing with GlaxoSmithKline's Lovaza and potentially AstraZeneca's has a drug as well, Epanova. And so this will move it into not just a massive, broader population. It'll be there uncontested.
Right, yeah. It'll definitely help differentiate the product from competitors. But, you know, the real issue here is the controversy over fish oil drugs. And It's really been hurting Amarin. Shares are down more than 40% in the last 12 months. And the whole controversy over the anchor indication is whether or not the FDA will wait for the results of the REDUCE-IT trial. So this is a trial that Amarin is running to see whether or not Vascepa actually helps prevent negative cardiovascular events like heart attacks and strokes. And that's really the whole controversy over fish oil drugs. Many of them do what they're supposed to do, which is lower triglyceride levels, but you know, we're not quite sure if they actually
if that improves outcomes at the end of the day.
And that's really the key effect of these drugs, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm so interested in this, right? Because these are generally safe products, they're well tolerated, right. And they're effective at what they do, but, you know, will the FDA want more evidence of, you know, actually helping people with cardiovascular issues? And it's going to be interesting. I'm really fascinated to see where this is going. I'm fascinated to see what happens with AstraZeneca's drug as well. They're going to run a large-scale trial too. It actually has a dosing advantage over Vascepa, but Vascepa is a little more effective. So that competition will be fun to watch. You have generics coming in for GlaxoSmithKline's Lovaza, so now there's going to be a cheap substitute that's not quite as effective either. So it's going to be really interesting. But I do want to say some final thoughts on this, that if the government shutdown does last until October 16th, you know, Amarin may be the only stock up on the 17th if they get good news, because that is the day the debt ceiling is supposed to be hit. So right. We could have a lot broader data. But I guess in some ways you could say that's the benefit of investing in biotech.
Right, but of course it comes with risks, right? Because a positive or negative decision, in my opinion, is very hard to call in this case.
I think so too, and that's why it's so fascinating. And we will be staying tuned to that. But let's move from drama in the United States to potentially drama in Europe, where obesity drug maker Orexigen is filing for European approval for its drug Contrave.
Yeah, so we've been following the obesity players for the last year or so. I mean, you have Arena, Vivus, and Orexigen, and
Orexigen's kind of the forgotten one.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because they were the first ones to get a drug under FDA review and the first ones to get the rejection there. In the meantime, Arena and Vivus have gotten their products on the U.S. market. They haven't been successful in getting through the EU regulatory agency, though.
No, Vivus was rejected back in February, and then Arena, a lot of Arena investors believe their drug actually had a really good shot at EU approval, but Arena actually pulled its application from the process. I think they could tell it wasn't going to go well for them, so they didn't really discuss why they were doing it, but I think it's pretty easy to infer why.
And David, you know, so Orexigen has a big opportunity if they can get this drug on the EU market before its competitors, but you know, there are indications that maybe the European Medicines Agency is a little harder on this class of drugs.
I think that's not just rumor. I think they are, and I don't think you can really model for European sales, but it'll be interesting to see. I wouldn't be surprised if the EU says not yet, not until you finish this large trial they're running here. Because as you mentioned, they were the first obesity drug maker up. They actually received a positive FDA review when they went through the process with the caveat, okay, you have to run this large post-marketing study. The FDA went against their advisory committee, said no, this needs to be pre-marketing, another phase 3 trial. It was originally massive in number, then it was reduced to a more manageable size for Orexigen. That's what allowed Vivus and Arena, who were also rejected the first time around, to resubmit and get approved and get on the market.
Right, and actually we should get some results from that study toward the end of this year, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. But Dave, I think long term, the biggest market opportunity is still in the U.S.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, Max. And you take a look at obesity drugs, it's sort of a new class of drugs, and so there may be some advantages and disadvantages to showing up a little late for the party.
Right, well, Arena and Vivus are both gaining traction and getting insurance coverage for their drugs, so that could benefit Orexigen. Also, there's more marketing and awareness, so doctors could become more comfortable prescribing obesity drugs, and that could benefit Orexigen, of course, if they get FDA approval.
Yeah, and on the other side of the coin, though, there could be more competitors. Novo Nordisk is looking to maybe enter the obesity space. And then you worry about your competitors just gaining and then holding on to market share. You know, Vivus has done really well with prescriptions ever since they got the drug moved into a retail pharmacy setting. And then shares actually have popped up 15% this week on news that they're making progress for finding a marketing partner for Qsymia. Arena, of course, has Azai for Belviq. Vivus has been going it alone. That was one of the big complaints that the hedge fund First Manhattan had when they ousted Vivus's old management. It looks like they're making progress, though. They've received some analyst upgrades, and they may be gaining improved patent protection as well, which has been an issue for investors due to the makeup of how their drug is formulated. So it'll be really interesting to watch. We'll be watching the obesity space closely going forward. It's popular with our viewers, so it's popular with us too. But thanks for watching. For Max Macaluso, I'm David Williamson. This is Market Checkup, and stay tuned to Fool.com for all your healthcare news. Fool on. Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's definitely where it's going to be. I mean, and it's like that with a lot of drugs too. And it's going to be interesting to see how Orexigen fares coming, from behind. There are some advantages and disadvantages to that.
Well, Dave, I still think the biggest market opportunity is here in the U.S.